co-founder of Gigforce, who raised a $7 million funding very recently, and other one is director for Digital Identification Research Institute, which is again housed in ISB Hyderabad. If possible, we might also meet Professor Bhagawan Chowdhury, who is Director, ISB Hyderabad and Professor, Finance Department. So what are you waiting for? I am ready with all my gear and equipment, and see you on Wednesday at 7 p.m. with these people. See you, bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Anirudh Syal, co-founder and COO of Gigforce. You are in the most beautiful campus of India, which is the Indian School of Business, and Rajeev is right next to me. I will be on Rajeev YSR show, which is the upcoming show, and if you have any questions around, what we do, the organization, and anything as budding entrepreneurs or as investors or as corporates, feel free to reach out to myself and Rajeev via chat or whatever mechanism Rajeev has, and I'll be very happy to answer some of those questions.
Hi, I am Saumya Kumar. I'm director at DIRI in the Indian School of Business. Looking forward to connecting with all of you at the Rajeev YSR show. If there are any questions, anything that you want to know about us and what we do, post your questions and we'll be there to answer it. Thank you so much.
Hi, hello, good evening. Welcome to the Rajeev YSR show. This evening, we have Anirudh Syal with us, who is the co-founder for Gigforce. Now, you might wonder what this Gigforce is. Gigforce has been making a lot of news these days. In fact, it is included in the among the top 30 startups in the Inc. 42 very recently. Okay. And they have also raised seed funding, and I had personally looked at their interface and their app, and it is phenomenal and promising. So instead of wasting even a single minute, let's listen all about this entrepreneurship, all about Gigforce, and what all went into raising those funds and how they arrived at solving this problem from none other than their own co-founders, Mr. Anirudh. Hi Anirudh, welcome to the Rajeev YSR show.
Thank you, Rajeev. It's a pleasure to be on this, and it's a pleasure knowing you for the last, as many months as I know you. So look, I think fair point, right? One of the first times when the team got together about a year and a half ago, which was myself, Chirag, Parag, and Ankur, and we were brainstorming, with regards to what is the next requirement for a country like this, ours, right? I come from a very engineering sort of background, operations background. Chirag comes from a very solid, deep staffing background, and he was recounting, all the sort of nitty-gritties and the issues that arise in especially the blue collar segment. Mm-hmm. And, maybe I'll be segment agnostic in the general staffing segment, right? There is so much of friction between businesses requiring the right level of people, the right kind of people, businesses requiring the right predictability of people, businesses requiring the correct benchmark of people with the right trainings, with the right aptitude, attitude, all those things, right? Language skills. So our thinking was, okay, what exists in the market currently, and where are we going to go ahead with whatever we have in our mind, right? So, we thought that the market is saturated with listing products such as Naukris, and where people can come list themselves, but that doesn't solve the core of the problem, which is, what would anybody prefer? Having labeled my skill sets and automatically going to the workplace, or applying for interviews every single day, going through the rut, the cycle every single day, every single month, every single time, whenever I want to change my job, whenever I want to change my location, whenever I want to learn something new. We thought that both from the business's point of view and from the job seeker's point of view, the single statement that makes the most sense is, I want a job today, can I get it today? And the business, I want a working, productive chap today, can I get the chap today? This is our problem statement. And what does it take to solve it is where our efforts have gone in the last 1.5 years.
Beautiful. it's very interesting to see, Anirudh. I mean, having graduated from IIT Kanpur and having passed out from ISB Hyderabad, having worked in Dubai for a considerable number of years, and you also worked across different countries, be it in the US and the China. Now, tell us what exactly is the same question which I put to Saumya, right? What exactly is that particular thing which really motivated you to come and look at this and solve this problem? Because you already have a comfortable life at your stake. I mean, had you not tried to attempt to solve this, you would still have the same luxury at your comfort. Now, what is it that triggered you to really consider this and then solve this?
I think super question, and I'll quote Chirag, the CEO and co-founder of Gigforce. He told me when we met together, again a year and a half back, he said, Anirudh, remove your MBA hat for some time, right? Go back to your engineering hat. I said, what do you mean? He said, look, we need to create value. My experience in the last as many years as I worked was about either maintaining value or growing value of any organization by very small amount, right? Here, I was sitting right across the table with one of I would call him a batchmate, he was a year younger to me at Kanpur, was look at a problem, how do you break down the problem into a logical sort of reasonable sets, and how do you solution it? That is a sensible solution for a large scale adoption. And that is what got me excited, that there is a veritable problem. I mean, today we blame our policymakers, we blame God, we blame the rain, we blame everybody on earth and everything for where our country is and why our country has not followed the China model.
Yeah.
But my question to anybody out there is, guys, the country has given us resources, has given us whatever we need, air, water, food, people, intelligence, schools. Let's use it and let's solve the most pressing problem of this nation. And why not? Why not?
Wonderful, wonderful. I think this is such I would say, a dose of inspiration, right? To those students or to those young budding entrepreneurs who are trying to look at. I mean, I really like the way you have articulated it, Anirudh. It is not about value addition, but it is all about value creation, right?
Absolutely.
Though it is just that one, though it is just that one verb that makes the difference, addition versus creation. But then it brings a complete change in the perception of how you see things. Excellent. This is fantastic. Now tell us, how did you approach your investors? Who are the investors behind it, and what was their excitement when you said that this is what the problem you are going to solve? And also tell us your experience of how did you raise those funds that you raised?
I think fair point, Rajeev. Look, and let's break down the psyche of a consumer. What excites you to buy something? If you think that particular thing you want to buy is something you want to buy, that is the first thing. Second, if the seller is able to convince you that here is a big problem and here my product is going to solve your big problem. Two items, right?
Yeah.
Either you go and buy, let's say, a BMW or a Mercedes or whatever because you want to buy it. So you have a thesis in that domain. And the second, if I tell you, Rajeev, I'm going to give you this camera, it's going to solve this and this problem. And if my method of convincing is logical, then you will believe me, right? The way we approached, our investors, and Chirag is his third startup now, so obviously he has fair bit of connections in the investor world. But abstracting out for the purpose of the new entrepreneurs out in the market, it's not your Excel sheet valuations, it's not your projections that convince an investor. It is whether you have an understanding of the problem in the first place. Second, whether you have a perception of where will your solution go and what will it take for you to arrive at a solution and how will you understand the solution in terms of specific milestones in a logical manner. As long as you are convinced of that journey, how will you see yourself 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 12 months from now, a year from now? Not only see, but what will you measure in terms of your approach towards the market, in terms of your product market fit, in terms of the basic parameters that let you know whether your product is getting adopted by the consumers. That understanding needs to be very well researched. And I certainly think it takes a deep thinking
Mhm.
for anybody to frame both the problem and the path to the solution. I'm not saying that one should have a solution for everything. No, what I'm saying is that one should be cognizant of the problem, the magnitude of the problem. It may not be a huge thing to solve, right? But there is an issue, there is a problem. One should be cognizant of that fact. Then one should be able to reach logically towards next steps. What am I going to develop? Who am I going to bring? And how will I measure my progress? As long as that path is clear, then your business plans and unit economics and all that stuff can come over the course of time, right?
You again spoke like an engineer, not as an MBA. I think you said it very rightly. It is not about how you promote your business model on Excel, but it is all about how deeply are you connected with the problem.
Correct.
How familiar are you with the problem.
Correct.
And how clear are your thoughts in terms of attempting to solve this problem.
Correct.
And your confidence in solving this problem.
Correct. Absolutely.
And in the process, whether it is viable, scalable, etc. And
Absolutely.
once these questions are answered,
Absolutely.
the rest of the things will follow.
Absolutely. Raji, just on this point, just yesterday I was discussing with Chirag, right? What is the time and when do we think that we have to scale?
Yeah.
And the discussion was very simple. And the simple discussion was, look, when we are confident of our internal processes, when we are confident that there is no more waste in our internal processes, that is the time when we should think of expanding.
Scaling.
And why? Because while you scale, you have economies of scope and scale, true. But at the same time, when you scale, you also scale with your own deficiencies.
The leakages also
The leakage
increase.
is also scale,
True,
right?
True. So fix those leakages first
Absolutely.
and then attempt to scale.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
prove your concept in an MVP in a smaller environment as much as
Absolutely.
possible, so that even if you were to suffer certain losses, those are limited.
Absolutely.
And once you're thoroughly clear about
Absolutely.
that particular
Absolutely.
fixing, and then that is when it is all about
Absolutely.
scalability. Excellent. Once again, thank you very much, Anirudh, for being on the Rajeev YSR show. I'm sure this would have added a lot of value to all the viewers there. And you can continue to post your questions, and Anirudh and myself will attempt to answer all your questions. And if in case you want to connect with Gigforce directly in terms of collaborating with them or synergizing with them, the credentials are also given in the comment box. You can write to them, you can connect with them. Hi, good evening. Once again, welcome to the Rajeev YSR show. And so far, we have seen what Anirudh, who is the co-founder of Gigforce, has been doing in the blue-collar employee network, and how he is attempting to solve the problem. And today, we have Mr. Saumya.
It's Saumya Kumar.
Saumya Kumar, right? Sorry. Today, we have Mr. Saumya with us, who is leading the DIRI initiative in Hyderabad, ISB. And let us hear from him what DIRI is all about and how he's going to contribute and how he's going to lead this particular sector forward. But before we get into those details, I will request Saumya to introduce about himself and talk about what he has been doing before taking up this role of head DIRI.
Sure.
All to you, Saumya.
Thank you, Rajeev. Thank you so much. And hello and good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for joining the show. So let me start by introducing myself a little. I basically am a graduate from Manipal University, and post Manipal, I have taken up a clutch of different roles in various industry sectors. So I've been in banking, insurance, telecom. Recruitment has been a large part of what I've done in strategy, and I've also run my own company in recruitment in the US for 2.5 years, which was a very interesting thing. And post which I was also leading the talent acquisition globally for Ola before I started working at DIRI. So DIRI, to start and let you know what DIRI actually is. So it stands for Digital Identity Research Initiative, which basically is a multidisciplinary, policy-oriented research intervention at ISB. So we look at how we can actually create a lot digital identity for people who are at the bottom of the pyramid, and we've been working at this for quite a couple of years that we've done this here at DIRI. And see, our purpose here, and you've heard Anirudh, what he said, how he's been running his Gigforce's company. The purpose of this whole thing is, what we understand very clearly is, digital identity is the basis of all this, which actually is a problem, which is a larger problem that needs to be resolved. Everything else would be secondary to getting the blue collar people on the digital identity, getting them recognized and bringing them on a platform. what we are trying to do is we are working with a lot of technology partners in different spaces, and we're trying to build an ecosystem wherein you bring all these blue collar people on our digital platform first, and then talk about their skills that they have acquired over a period of time, recognize those skills, fine tune it, and then bring them to a financial inclusion. That we want to give them insurance, healthcare, and also a little bit of training, and we can build content around that as well.
Okay. Now let me put this question, Saumya.
Yeah.
What is it, that mission statement that you're chasing? When you reach that, you would say, yes, DIRI has arrived. What is that ultimate state of euphoria that you're chasing?
So I think that's a very interesting question, Rajeev, and thank you for asking this. I would say when we have 100% of people who are looking for jobs at the blue collar level, at the bottom of the pyramid, uh, who are now on a digital platform, and we have tagged them to their Aadhaar, and we've tagged them to the skills that they actually have, where they've worked in the past, which is called recognition of prior learning. I think that would be a phase when I would say that we've reached the point of this utopian state where we actually have everybody digitally recognized.
So that means you are saying that it is not just the digital recognition of everybody having an Aadhaar, but an extension to the records that everybody not only has Aadhaar, but the government also has the records of what particular skill set a particular person or an Aadhaar number possesses,
Absolutely.
and how they can be deployed, utilized, and then used towards nation building.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, see, there's a very interesting thing that I want to bring in here is a lot of people have tried doing this in the past, and what we need to understand is, why have they not succeeded, and why we are working with our technology partners, and we're working with Gigforce, where Anirudh is part of it. Is we need to solve this at a very granular level, right? Now, there are various things attached to it. So, when a labor migrates from a certain place to a different place in our country, why is he migrating? What's the motivation behind it? What is he looking at? Right? There is a lot of things attached to it that people don't see. There's seasonality. Just to give you an example, a lot of Bengali folks who come out from Bengal and work, they go back on Durga Puja.
Correct.
So the employer is left and lurched. He doesn't know what to do. People from Bihar go back on Chhat Puja, right? So what do the employers do? So we have to build in seasonality into it. We have to build in motivation into it, and we have to understand and solve the problem at the grassroots level, right? So to do this, and just to break it down for you further, is we're going down to the different taluks in India, right?
Taluka level.
Yes, taluka level.
Wow.
So we know that there are close to 718 districts in India, and we go to those districts and taluks, and we recognize people who are actually very, very well connected to the villages. So every village has a place where in the evening everybody gathers and has tea, right? They have tea, or there are people who are so there are these multi-purpose workers in the health department government. They are assigned households to actually go and vaccinate. They're very, very closely knit to those families. They know who has what skills, who is looking out for jobs. We want to empower these people as the Aadhaar for Naukri.
Wonderful.
Right? The ambassadors of Naukri.
Wonderful.
Right? And give them a smartphone, enable them to actually onboard those people with the basic documents and send it to us saying, Saumya, who's a driver in my village looking for a job. So my Aadhaar, my driving license, and my photograph is sent to me. And we actually in the back end, we create a digital identity for them and we bring them on the platform. And over a period of time, it becomes a self-sustained kind of a machinery. So people who are looking out for jobs, they actually go to these people, they onboard them digitally, and it comes to our backend. So over a period of time, we create this whole database of people who are employed, not employed, but looking for employment, right? And we bring them on a digital platform.
That's great. So, Saumya, whose initiative is this?
So this basically is an initiative which DIRI has undertaken, which is supported by Umidiyar, and we are looking at Government of India to also support us in this initiative. So we've reached out to them, and we're having conversations around that as well. So we're looking at a good collaboration with Government of India as well.
Wonderful. I also understand that you're meeting the PMO's office next week.
Yes, we have a presentation that we're making there.
Wonderful. Now, Saumya, tell me this. Have you bounced off this idea with any of the corporates in the existing setup, and then have you understood what their response and their inclination towards this idea is?
Yes, so we've spoken to some corporates. In fact, just to give you an example, big companies, who employ a lot of these workforce in manufacturing units, in food processing units, they're very much interested in an ecosystem like this. Why? Because one, build a supply for them of these people. They come on your platform. They're digitally, on the platform that you have created, and some of them are also interested with the partners that we're talking about to build a respectable housing for them when they're being migrated, right? So in their own campus, we build a place where they can actually sleep, live, and be part of that whole ecosystem. And then, obviously give them financial inclusion and the other things that we talk about. So we've spoken to corporates, they're very excited, and and people who are listening to this, it's a problem that will solve a lot of problems for a lot of corporates, give them a lot of opportunities, give them a database to work on. So I think all of us should be excited about this and actually should invest in this, right?
That's interesting. That's interesting. Now, let me also reflect upon the recent work that you're doing with the Tamil Nadu government, right?
Right.
Where you're trying to map and match the skill set and the industry concentration.
Right.
Would you like to show some
Sure.
show some light on that?
So I think nationally, what we're trying to do, a larger project is we want to map out skill concentrations at the pin code level, right?
Okay.
So can I today tell Rajiv that 500,019 in Hyderabad has an XYZ skill set concentration, and if there is infra existing and raw material existing, you should set up certain industries in this particular place. So one, do it at a national level. Just to give you an example, there are these proposed sites that the government of Tamil Nadu wants to make automobile manufacturing units in. So can I actually go back to the government of Tamil Nadu, do a similar kind of mapping for them, and tell them that automobile manufacturing skill set is existing in XYZ districts and not in the districts that you're thinking about, to make a very informed, decision making on this and build something like that. So that's what we're trying to do with government of Tamil Nadu.
Understood. So now, as a call out to whosoever are watching from the audience, what are the kind of collaborations and what are the kind of synergies that you are looking for?
So we are looking at people, who are working in similar kind of space and mapping. See, because the market is huge. It's a huge activity we are, undertaking. So people, who think that this kind of information or this kind of digital mapping can actually be beneficial for their business as well. So for instance, SBI would want to do it. Right? Insurance company wants such a database. There are financial fintech companies who want to do similar kind of stuff. There are people who want to employ blue collar people and build predictability in this whole system that we're trying to build. So people who are interested in funding, they should come forward. People who are interested in this kind of data and this kind of activity, which will benefit them as well, they should come and help us with resources to facilitate this whole activity and bring it together to a platform.
Wonderful. In an extension to the vision that you just expressed, Saumya, what I think is, end of the day, it all adds up to the happiness index. Let me tell you why.
Absolutely.
From my personal experience, right? Though I come from a beautiful place called Vizag, and my heart always longs that I go back and then work there. But it's been 12 years into the industry. I worked in Hosur for a few years. I worked in Bangalore for a few years, Ahmedabad, Germany, and right now a little closer to home, Hyderabad. Prior to this in Mumbai.
Absolutely.
Right? But if what you are saying kind of really comes in handy, at least at the blue collar level, then I think we can completely stop this problem of migration. We can stop the excessive stress that is coming upon the cities, because the pockets, the industries can be concentrated as per the availability of the skill force as per the pin code, as you mentioned,
right?
And then the growth is also kind of diversified. It is no longer right. The power is no longer centralized. The development is no longer centralized.
Right.
The development happens from all the nook and corners of the country.
Absolutely.
And definitely that adds to a lot of happiness index. You have better schools, better hospitals, better infrastructure everywhere. I think I'm really excited.
No, absolutely.
About this particular initiative.
Absolutely.
Now, what is the time frame that you are chasing, and what are the time milestones that you have set for yourself while moving in this direction?
So I think the initial POC that we're talking about, we'll pick up certain districts, we'll map them out, and we would look at anywhere between 6 to 8 months for a POC that we want to do with few districts. Once that is over, we will go out and we will approach people who can actually help us in the infra that we're looking at to facilitate this whole thing. So I would say for a POC anywhere between 6 to 8 months, and for a whole project to take shape, I would be optimistic about, I would say, 15 months.
Interesting. Great, Saumya. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And just this is more on a personal note.
Sure.
Let me pause it. We'll release Anirudh. Okay, this is interesting, Saumya, but this question I would like to really probe, right? If it is all right with you,
Sure, sure.
with your personal life, right?
Sure.
Having a degree from an institute like Indian School of Business and having worked at a director level with a company called Ola, right?
Right.
Heading the complete talent acquisition. And I also heard you had your own startup you ran for about 2.5 years from the US. What made you to leave all the comfort, cushion, luxury that life has got to offer and solve such a noble problem? What is that is motivating you,
Sure.
and what made you take this call?
Sure, sure. Yeah, so I think let me start with my personal bit. So, which was, mostly how things happened, and it's definitely not always by choice. So, I started working with Citibank in the banking sector, and eventually, after some time, 2009 struck, and there was a complete financial meltdown across the globe. I moved to insurance from there. Then I moved to a telecom startup. I've moved to an HR startup, and I've worked for a very long time in an HR startup. From there, I moved on to e-commerce sales and strategy. I did some bit of IT sales and ran my own startup in then Ola. And after Ola, I've come back to ISB. So across my work experience, I felt I was working at a very superficial level, right? Trying to solve problems, but not really going to the grassroots to solve it. So while I've been doing human resource recruitment and doing blue collar hiring, we talk about it as volume hiring, but it really doesn't solve the purpose. You try and hire people, you don't get into why they quit the job and go, and then you again scramble to look out for more people.
Yeah.
But the problem is much deeper, right? And I was very passionate about solving the problem, and solving the problem, by when I say really really solving it, I had to understand that I had to go back to the roots to figure out what motivates people, how things operate. Why do people join a job? Why do they migrate? Where do they migrate? Uh, what kind of skill sets migrate? How people employ them? How do we reduce the attrition? And for all this, I think DIRI has definitely a platform which is giving me an opportunity to solve this problem at the grassroots level. So that definitely is the motivation. And my own experience in different industries and different sectors actually adds a lot of value to it.
Yeah.
Right? I understand the same problem from different parameters and different perspectives. So I think that's an added advantage that I have, which you don't realize about it. And like Steve Jobs said, when you look back, the story really ties up and it makes sense.
Very
So it
true,
makes
very
sense for me.
I think, Soumya, there is, one point that I derive from your story is nothing is accidental, right? I mean, the way you move from it, insurance is again a highly manpower driven
Right.
company,
Right.
and banking is again highly
Right.
manpower driven company,
Right.
and then the way you moved into a HR startup
Right.
and spent most of your time there,
Right.
and from there to Ola. Ola is again into a lot of blue collar employment,
Right.
and I think, though you have taken this particular role pretty recently, but then I think you have been working on this problem
Yes.
for quite a number of years,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
And this gives you more, I would say, freedom and right exposure, and also right access to
Right.
get to the core of the problem and solve it.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Soumya, I wish you a very, very best in
Thank
your
you.
pursuit of solving this problem.
Thank you, Rajeev.
This is really wonderful because I look forward for a country of mine, right, where factories are set up across the country, workshops are set up across the country,
Absolutely.
IT industry spread across the country. There is no glamour attached to the city. People can do farming in the morning and probably can do some other occupation in the evening.
Absolutely.
And I think it is such a beautiful. I can just imagine that how beautiful it would have been that had I not required to move around. Of course, that gives me a lot of exposure. But then, if only I stayed back in my own place and have access to complete infrastructure that I have right now,
Sure.
complete growth aspect that I have right now, and still right be connected with my family and then enjoy this life, right?
Absolutely.
I think I'm sure that these are very humble steps. Each of your I would say step will have a very very deeper impact on the generations to come, and I wish you all the very best.
Thank you.
Now going forward, I really want to understand how you are collaborating with Gigforce, especially with Anirudh, and I want to understand how you both are trying to solve this problem together.
Sure,
right?
sure.
After a short break, we will also have Anirudh on show, and then we will try to understand how DIRI and Gigforce are coming together and attempting to solve this problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank
watch
you.
out, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, hey guys, welcome to the Rajeev YSR show once again. And we have heard Anirudh from Gigforce and we have heard Saumya from DIRI speaking about the same problem, how both of them are approaching and then solving it differently. But then let me also tell you, most of the times, this is what I always used to repeat to my team also. It is more than competition, it is the collaboration that takes things forward. And it is very interesting to see how these two great friends are coming together to solve that one problem. One dons the head of a startup entrepreneur and then brings the energy and the connection to it, and other one dons the head of coming from the government of India and the ISB, and then attempts to solve this problem. Now let us see how these two great gentlemen are collaborating together and making the life of the blue collar workforce much better. Right? Over to you, Anirudh and Saumya. What is the synergy that you find with DD?
Thanks, Rajeev. I think good point. I've been working with Saumya for at least the last 6 months, Saumya.
Yeah.
And Saumya comes very specifically with a large, deep experience in the recruitment domain. I come with the staffing experience, which we are trying to actualize it, via the product across the spectrum. But I think a lot of times what is missing is the ecosystem approach towards the problem. What Saumya talked about in in the previous conversation, that the concept of safe housing, the concept of connects with academics, the concept of connects with the power centers that be right. For any solution to become sustainable, I see things in three forms. One, that the users need to accept that solution. So the solution has to be designed, the technology has to be designed, so users accept a particular solution. The second part is policymakers need information that they can formulate policies for a much more sustainable future. How does that happen? Well, that happens via sharing of ideas, sharing of connections, sharing of results, sharing of data on digital platforms. And Government of India has enabled identification of people, and I will not call tracking of people, I would rather say identification for the purposes of benefits, for the purposes of allowing or enabling them to enter the digital economy. And I think the layers of technology that are getting built over and above what GOI has implemented, how do we actualize that technology layer to ensure people derive real-time benefits out of it, and then the understanding of some of these offshoots, such as ours, such as the India stack. When policymakers get an understanding of that, they can chart a much better future, in terms of encompassing what next can be done. Because in the space of labor markets, in the space of healthcare, in the space of education or training or employment or economics, right? These items not only concern us, but they concern the nation as a whole. And I think the three pillars of a solid nation are policymakers, entrepreneurs, or corporates that are embracing ideas, and academics. The combined power of these three, when it resonates, you create magic.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I think very simply put, like you're starting to what Anirudh has been saying, we bring onto the table the research approach. We bring onto the table the research that academicians have done. So we're working with the University of Chicago with the help of the enablement of Vidya, helping us out in this. I think we bring in the ideas, right? And with our technology partners, these guys are the implementers. So without them, I don't think we'll be able to reach anywhere.
Right? That's also a fantastic thought.
Yeah.
I mean, ideas are there, but somebody needs to execute it in some form.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
So I think it's brilliant. So, and going back to the roots, trying to implement that, we definitely can actually bring you how it needs to be done, why it needs to be done, but who's going to do it? Right? So we definitely need these technology partners to help us out doing this.
See you next week with another guest on the Rajeev YSR show. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening. Bye bye.
Thank you, Rajeev.